Heard that?
Yeah, what's wrong with this lady? Why is she... Do you think, low-key, she's trying to become a guest on the podcast?
We could only have a certain amount of people on the podcast.
Could you remind me, what's the max here? Was it... what number?
3?
2, 1. It's the Shant and Ari podcast, you guys. Episode
79.
Number 79. Shant, did you say something?
No.
I know.
Oh, okay. 79.
Do you want to know what I was doing during that pause?
You were looking up to see the episode number.
I was.
I could tell.
I always get so flustered because when you say "all right" on 3, 2, 1, and then I got to rush to figure out which episode we were on. That's besides the point, big guy. How you doing, huh?
Good, man. I'm excited about today's podcast. Because Betty and Leo are not here today, so we won't hear any crying in the background, so that's good. But Lucy's here, so she may be barking. She's sitting right there.
Lucy's such a good girl, man.
Yeah, she loves you, by the way.
Love Lucy. What up, Lou?
So today I want to talk about, I never have yet, even with you, and it's been so long, talk about Biden recognizing the Armenian genocide. We have not discussed this at all.
We did not touch it. We did not.
I've never even asked your opinion on it or anything. So that happened. And then we're going to talk about this weekend. You went to a fun wedding. It seemed like I was watching on your Instagram. It looked like a lot of fun.
So much fun. That was, yes. I'll tell you all about it and my thoughts on it. And yeah, let's talk about Biden.
Spreader event. Definitely a nice event to spread the vid. Before we do, I made you take an exam the other day.
Fuck, man. It was like the SATs all over again. What was that, bro? Do you send that to everybody that you want to like throw them off throughout their day? Just fucking waste an hour. So
the disc profile. So I made Ari take a disc profile test, right? And the disc profile, it's basically a personality profile to kind of see the type of personality and how to interact with someone, right? So this is really good when you're trying to hire people, right, into an organization, and you kind of want to see how this person is, because depending on how they are, their role may be different, right? Someone made me take this as I was getting onto my new position. So I kind of was like interested to see what you were compared to what I am. So before we get into that, before we know what you are and what I am, I'll kind of go over the DISC. So it's the DISC, right? D is like more of a decisive, personality. I is influencing. S is stabilizing. And C is conscientious, right?
It's a big word.
In a nutshell, right? Some say S is steadiness. I is for influence. C is for, So that's the main premise. Do you want to tell people what you are first, or should I go first? What do you think?
Well, I'm not going to lie. I don't know how I got DC. I don't know. To be honest with you, I barely even looked over the results because the taking the test took me so long that I didn't have enough time to look over the actual results. To be honest with you, I got the test. I got discombobulated from that test because I was busy while I was taking it. So I had to like do what I was doing, and then.
How high was your D and C? Do you remember?
I can't remember, man. I don't know. I don't even know if I have the results still. Can I be honest with you? It's not
But
looking
I'm guessing it's higher.
Can you explain to the people what each, so that they can take it? Tony Robbins, just a little backstory here. Tony Robbins has a test.
I didn't like his, actually. I've seen better ones. But
You didn't like his test?
And the results, the way the PDF came back is explaining what you got. But whatever. While you're looking for yours, please, I'll explain what mine is. Okay. So mine is a high. I'm pulling mine up right here. Mine is a very high S, 99 percentile, and then a high C. Right. But I'm kind of have a low D, but like a 35D, 46I, but then 67C and 99S, right? Let me see. You're pulling yours up.
Yeah, I pulled mine up. Mine has a very high D, sort of like a lower C. So
yours doesn't show the. Okay.
So it's saying, look at my accomplishments in the interacting guys. Hey, look at me. I think this test is shitting on me because it's all about like, hey, let me show to you how great I am, and I don't give a shit about you. And I'm an angry prick. So basically, Shant, this test that you sent me, I came to the realization based off of the questions that were asked, such as rate one, like, put it in order, the things you care about, and every single question, for some odd reason, my priorities always kept on putting my relationships with people very, very last. Like, put it like at the top of it, technology and making money, running a team efficiently, yada, 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 all the things that are so important in running a business. And then at the very end, it's like how you treat others. It's like, come on, man. Like, what the fuck? Like, you want me to lie and put this in the middle? Is that what you want?
So let me explain the DI. So I have this chart here, right? So up here, there's a pie chart. On the top of the pie chart, there's the D and the I, right? The D and the I are outgoing people, okay? The C and the S are more reserved. The bottom CS are reserved, okay? But to the left, you have the D and the C. They are task-oriented people. The people to the right of the I and the S are people-oriented, okay? So outgoing, reserved, task-oriented, people-oriented. So you're a DC, right?
Yeah.
So
and I think to explain it is on page 2 of the PDF, Sean. Yeah. And I would love to go over these with you and encourage other people to sort of take it so they can understand from just page 2. Page 2 is sick, but please go on. So yes, I was DC. I was uppercase D, lowercase c. And I can tell you from a quick snapshot so you can understand why this test turned me off so much.
But what this means, though, the D and the C for you is you're an outgoing person, still a little reserved, but you're more task-oriented, right? Mm-hmm. You're also very direct. These are the drivers, right? These are usually CEOs, okay? These are people who are highly motivated, result-oriented people, right? So like when you're hiring someone to be a manager at your, next place or whatever, you're looking, you look at this and you're like, okay, do I want someone who's a decisive, like a D? Do you want someone who's a little bit more stabilizing, right? I'm a more stabilizing type person, right? I'm more steady, people-oriented. I'm a listener, right? And then I have a little bit of the C, which I'm detail-oriented as well. So like, and then there's the high I's. High I's are party people, right? Like they're people-oriented, talkative. They go to a party, you notice that person. The D and the I, when they walk in a party, you notice them, right? They come in, right?
Alpha, sort of peacock. type people.
So there's nothing wrong with being a D. Don't let Tony Robbins shit on you right now. Only 10% of people are true Ds, high Ds, by the way.
I can imagine. Not everybody's cut out.
People think they want to be a driver, a leader. Well, high Ds doesn't mean you're a true leader. High Ds is just you're a go-getter. Your results, your direct CEO. Like you're a CEO if you're a high D.
Can I tell you why this test is very, very upsetting? It might be true. It might be false. I don't know. I don't want to comment exactly on how accurate it is, but let's take a little dive deeper into what it's saying. So it's saying emotionally, I may shift between being aggressive or restrained.
Fact.
My goal, achieving dominance and reaching unique goals.
Facts.
How you value others. Do others meet their standards? This is how I value them. The question is do others meet their standards? Can others present unique ideas that move things forward both effectively and accurately? So if you're the guy that can't wrap the sandwich correctly, I am judging on you based on how much you're fucking up the assembly line. You are probably causing some aggressive behavior on my end.
I can see that. Facts.
How you influence a group will establish an observable focus on building structures to help the group achieve objectives and accomplish goals. 100%. So I will literally lay out all the orders in front of us and start chipping away at them using a very, very strict process.
You tend to be blunt and critical. Yeah.
Yeah. The values you bring to an organization. I will initiate or adjust tactics and plans. Cautions. Can become overly critical, blunt with others, and sometimes look down at other people's ideas. This is basically saying that I can be an over-dominant prick. When under pressure, can become bored with routine tasks, does not respond well to micromanagement, can attempt to dominate situations and trailblaze. What you fear, situations without personal influence will struggle with personal poor performance.
Yeah, do you feel that's far off from what you are?
I don't feel like it's far off from what I am. It just didn't, put it this way, it didn't display these characteristics in too much of a positive light. It went sort of neutral to negative. That's how it made me feel. I know that sometimes tests are not made to make you feel good, but tests are made to like reveal exactly what sort of. But I would encourage anybody to sort of take this. It's a long test.
It's not that long.
All right, put it this way. Don't do it if you're actively focusing on something because
it's like 20 minutes. It's 20 minutes.
In work, if you're working, it could take you up to an hour.
Just take 20 minutes one night and do it. Now, do you think you would actually use this when hiring people in the future, like in high-level positions?
You know, just your competency in being able to take a test like this and rating these things, I feel like I'd just be curious to know where you end up on this test if I gave it to you. But I don't think that I'd be using it as like a heavy gauge, like a really.
But you don't think so? Let's say you're starting a company, right? Your company, you're growing, and you're hiring a marketing director, right, for your Ani Catering, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you let them take this test, right? And they're a high C, reserved, critical thinker, like you would rather have a high I when you're looking at marketing or sales or whatever. So like I
like
think
in your face, that kind of person.
Yeah, like I think this is a really, and this is probably your D coming out saying you won't do it. I'm going to mess with you for the rest of your life with this.
D stands for what? Does it stand for douchebag or does it stand for dickhead? What does it stand for?
You're on the right track. This will actually like allow you to like know the type of person when you're hiring a leader in an organization, like, hey, is this person a good fit for this role? Right? Because this tells you a lot. It's been spot on with a lot of people that have taken this. So just to kind of give you some extra. So, and then there's an overview of your motivators, right? So my motivators was economic, right? So my motivator was economic, right? So what it breaks down to is the motivation for security, for self-interest, economic gains, and achieving real-world returns on personal ventures. Okay.
Ooh. Is that true? Is that facts?
Yeah. Based on your motor canister, you'll appreciate bottom line results and will likely have strong competitive me first thinking. So very competitive, right? So I'm very competitive. You're typically interested in what makes logical sense. I'm very big on that. You like rewards based on results. Like to compete, and you want to surpass others in material and monetary rewards. It's very spot on for me.
Love that. So tell me a little bit about, did this at all evoke any negative feelings, any sort of negative explanations to your personality type? Did it reveal any sort of ways that you could sort of remove any sort of bad activities, bad habits, bad ways of handling what you do? I feel like they tried to make this like dominant CEO type personality so neutral, but it just sounds like what it is. You're like a douchebag /
So let me
asshole.
see my what it said about my kind of breakdown like yours. Okay, so emotionally, right? May appear disinterested and behaviorally restrained.
Behaviorally restrained. And what was it? So antisocial?
Disinterested.
Ah, okay.
How many times have you seen me be disinterested?
Yeah, if I speak for like 2 minutes too long, that's just gets you into that.
Yeah. So my goal, to gain the authority from identified organization structures and positions. How you value others' ability to effectively use logic and data. Like, I hate when people are jackasses, basically. Like, just use common sense around me.
Right.
How you influence the group through persistence, tenacity, and steady focus. The value you bring brings a fact-based grounding to a team combined with the ability to work individually or with others effectively. Cautions can become undiplomatic and question other motives.
Have you made your wife? Has Betty taken this test?
No, I want to see. I want her to take it. I think she'd be a high I, like people person. When under pressure, can internalize stress, be slow to let go of mistakes, and become non-communicative. What you fear, loss of ability to focus, blah, blah, blah. So pretty spot on. I think it's pretty spot on.
What do you think about these two together?
What do you mean?
Like, what would you say if my personality type and your personality type was put together in like a team?
So I think if we were running a business together, right? Let's say we were running a business, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Me and you being a strong D and me a strong S would be actually a perfect match to running a business.
Is that why we're together on this podcast? Is that what you're trying to tell the people, Shant? Is that what's going on?
Hey, Tony Robbins saying it is. So He's a little bit smarter than we are, so
Tony Robbins. I've been hearing his name over and over and over again these past couple months. Somebody told me you got to listen to this book. It was one of his first.
Tony Robbins?
I should, man. So many people found like enlightenment by him. But question for you. With Leo's crazy ass laugh. What kind of personality type do you think Leo is?
He is a high I. He's a influencer, people person.
He is so cute, man. Speaking of Leo, what's the latest and greatest on Leo? When's he supposed to start school? When's he going to start driving? Is that next year?
So his first birthday is coming up this month. Okay. So not driving yet. He's crawling. He's standing on his own, but then he'll fall. So he'll be walking soon.
Can't wait. Is he going to go? Does Arizona have an Armenian school? First of all, can I ask you, is Armenian school a thing in Arizona, and will Leo be in attendance?
We have Saturday and Sunday school.
Okay, that's a start.
And we want to hopefully be able to take him.
And if not,
I mean,
will you be teaching him? I pink him ta.
That's going to be Betty's job.
Fun fact, I don't know the alphabet completely.
I don't either. I forgot how to read and write in Armenian.
R.I.P.
So I'm an illiterate.
All the money that you guys spent for St. Illuminators.
It was actually the cheapest school there was. I'm an illiterate in Armenian, so I could speak it.
That's me too. So is it a priority? My question really is
what are you trying to get at? Like, let's get to the real point here.
So I just came back from a wedding. It was a beautiful, very, very Armenian.
Yeah.
Not just Armenian in the sense that like there was like a Daul Zurna, and which there was too. There was all sorts of crazy Armenian shit.
Yeah.
There was all sorts of stuff happening, but very Armenian in the sense that like two super Armenian American families came together, and like a really good definition of what our grandparents would have hoped for, post genocide, being taken to Syria and Beirut. Like, it was just dream come true given the circumstances. And I'm just thinking in the back of my mind, put it this way, I'm positive that both of them, they know what they have. They're going to be using it to their maximum advantage. Let's make it very, very clear though. Most of my friends put a very, very high value on marrying Armenian. If I don't think that would have happened how it happened had they not put a very, very high value on marrying Armenian and, sending your kid off to an Armenian school and making sure they're doing super Armo things like joining scouts and being in the AYF and maybe being touched down the road, those sorts of things. Could you tell me, because I have a lot of half Armenian friends, and I have a friend that married a non-Armenian, and he's an ARFer, he went to Armenian school, yada yada, but he still has very, very, he has his particular things that he wants to do when his kid grows up, to keep that tradition going. However, he didn't marry an Armenian because he believes that Love is independent of where you come from. You, Shant, married Betty, and can we be completely honest here?
Mm-hmm.
You like knocked that one out of the park. Did you think that you'd ever get that lucky back when you were like 19 or 20, or did you even think that you would ever even do what you did?
So I'm going to have an interesting take on this, right? Because I did marry an Armenian. My brother did not marry an Armenian girl.
And he's a little bit more Armenian than you are. As in, he sings Hapawagan songs.
Yeah, that's the level to test if someone is.
Yes, he hangs around the Mongol. More than you do.
Yeah, I'm inside watching something. He's literally, he is by the Mongol, like eating the chicken, eating the kebab while it's being cooked. I'm inside.
He's the one wearing the fanila or resting his whiskey on his belly, burping really, really loud. So but he's not married to an Armenian.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is like, how much do you personally value the marriage component of staying true?
Okay. So I'm going to have an interesting take on this, right?
I'm going to have an interesting listen to this.
And it's going to go, if I veer off a little bit, bring me back, but to your actual question. So I never thought I was going to marry an Armenian girl.
Why?
Because, so I grew up in different cultures, right? I grew up with mix of friends. I still was in the Armenian community, right? Like I played sports. I was at AYF growing up, but not much in Home Man, right? I went to Armenia many times, 3-4 times, whatever it was, right? Like I'm in it. I love my Armenian friends. I love the community, but I also had a mix of different friends, right? Like my best friends are Chinese, Puerto Rican, Greek, Haitian, Jamaican, right? Like that's my group of friends, right? So I grew up in different culture, like being around different cultures. I used to go to their parties, to their family events and see how they, did stuff, their foods and all this stuff. So I became a little bit more Americanized, right? Than someone like you, because you're in Watertown, which is all Armenians, grew up with all Armenians in the community singing Hapawagan songs, right? You weren't singing that night. I saw you. You weren't singing, but the other night, where am I going with that? So why I didn't think I was going to marry an Armenian girl, or why I did not want to really marry an Armenian girl, is I like the Americanized type personality, right? I need someone who gets me, right? Who understands, like when I say something stupid and I'm being an idiot and talking shit, it's not personal, right? Some of the more Armenian, and I'm obviously judging a book by its cover and I'm not trying to say all Armenian girls who are in the Armenian community are like this. So don't attack me, please. But the general consensus is they're a little bit more sensitive and proper and want to be, the appearance matters, right? Like how we look to the Armenian community matters, right? That's a big thing. I don't subscribe to that as much, right? So I was like, it's going to be hard for me to find an Armenian girl who has a little bit of both, Armenian in them, like has that family values but still has that American side to them where they don't care about what they look like to the Armenian community and try to conform to everything. Because I've seen other cultures, because family values is important to me. That was one of the biggest things, family values. And that's why we like to stick with Armenians, because we have family values, right? A lot of us do. But being in other cultures, seeing them, they also have strong family values. So it's like actually stronger in some other ethnicities and nationalities. So I was like, I don't need to be Armenian, right? But then I met Betty, who came from Haleb, Syria, at 16, 17 years old. So like that's a boater. She's immigrant, right? I met her when she was 25. So she was only here for 8, 9 years in America. So you would think she's like full blown, her dad, her mom, they're all very traditional Armenian family, right? That's what you would think. And her family was, her sisters are, everything. But Betty had a little bit of different, like thing to her. She didn't care about her.
Want to fit the stereotype.
She didn't care about the traditions. We were actually talking about this yesterday, weirdly enough.
Can you elaborate, please?
I was like, do you know why I actually ended up like one of the reasons why I married you? She's like, why? I was like, because you weren't super freaking Armenian. And she's like, what does that mean? I was like, you weren't like, oh, Orenka, Asiyabetge Asang. I'm like, if I came home and you're sitting with the moms drinking surge, I'd divorce you.
Yeah, I don't like that shit. Because only a handful of things get discussed over surge. You know that.
But to me, it's like
oh, what's your husband been up to? He's been going out with the guys lately too. Yeah. But
that's what I didn't want, and she was like, "No," she's never done that. She's like, "No, I ain't got time for that shit." That's what she said.
Like, I don't even
yeah, and so it's funny because like Armenian food, like chikifte, she doesn't eat that like stuff. Like I don't eat it.
I was just about to ask you, does she know how to make chikifte?
No, I love it.
It's okay. It's all right. It's not a big deal.
So
if you want it badly enough, you'll learn how to make it.
We could YouTube it. We could buy it. It's fine. It's not the end of the world. But I don't like it anyway. She doesn't like it. So it's like
match made in heaven. That's awesome.
Her older sister, who's 1 or 2 years older, is huge. Like she's Armenian, like traditions, like likes to make the Armenian food. We don't make Armenian food at home. Zero. And I know that's a big thing for you, probably. So what I'm trying to get at is, to me, I don't think it matters as much. I think it also limits people because you're trying to squeeze your resume a check boxes, like, oh, they have to be Armenian, check. But then you miss out on the other things that are more important, in my opinion.
Tell me more.
What do you mean?
About your opinion. What is more important? You got lucky with the fact that you are raising, you have a wife that just, she checks off the important boxes for you.
Yeah.
What are the important boxes for you is what I guess I'm interested in hearing about.
So couple things would be like trust, right? We have never had any trust issues. Like maybe a little in the beginning, who knows? It's so ancient right now. It doesn't even matter. We don't even question anything about motives, right? Trust, respect for each other, like respecting each other, like how we speak to each other, right? We don't like, yeah, we'll talk shit, blah, blah, blah. Like the other day, she's like, "Oh, you look fat." I was like, "Okay, like thanks."
You can't even say anything back.
Yeah, like
not saying she looks or doesn't look. You just can't say anything back.
I say it. Don't worry, I say it. We get at each other. Yeah. the most important thing is working as a team, right? And why I didn't conform more to an Armenian girl, because it's like the guy does everything and the girl just takes care of the house, right? I wanted someone we could build something together, right? And Betty's been like, and that's one thing that was rare for me, someone who's not, how do I say this in a nice way? So naive, because a lot of girls coming from other countries sometimes that are Armenian could be a little naive to what the real world is like.
In what sense? What are you referring to about the real world? Because we've got the real world when it comes to like they've never been out there in corporate America, or are you talking about they've never been out there in at a college party, or are you talking about they've never been out there at what happens after a nightclub at 2 o'clock in the morning or in
It's
Vegas?
stuff like just like real world stuff where it's like, oh, like I'm gonna come to America and then like I'm gonna do this and it's gonna be like I don't know anything, but it's gonna be fine. Like just naiveness, right? Like, and kind of know what really does go on. And like America's different than back home, man. Like it's two totally different worlds. And if you're stuck on that mindset when you're raising a kid, they're gonna fall into the American trap. So you have to know that it's going on. You can't be naive.
Do you think that Armenian girls that were born and raised here, do you think that what they take from their parents in terms of like, you have to marry Armenian, you have to marry Armenian, do you think that they are doing it more to satisfy a preconceived, like,
Yeah,
prerequisite?
yeah. Their parents, they want to, and when I say like, even the ones that are born here sometimes are naive because they're sheltered. Right?
Do you think that exactly? Do you think that to some degree marrying an Armenian is just makes not the marriage itself, but whatever comes along for the ride, if you will, makes that easier? Whether it be the church that you guys go to, the friends that you guys have coming to the wedding, the family members not being able to fucking communicate with each other, holidays.
Yeah, it's that it makes things easier, right? Going to church, like Tavi sometimes like my sister-in-law, like she doesn't know what's going on a lot of times. Our parents are yelling, screaming, cracking jokes. She doesn't know, but she likes it and she gets by. But one thing I will say, and obviously not every Armenian girl's like this. I love Armenian girls. I love Armenians, right? It comes down to, so my friend, I won't name his name. If he's listening, he knows who he is. He may or may not have been out here recently, whatever. He was talking to a girl back home, right? Back in the New York, New Jersey area.
Not the Aleppo, Beirut area. I got you. Okay.
And he's dating this girl for a couple months. Mm-hmm. And he's just like off. Like I could just tell he's here. I'm like, dude, like what the fuck's going on? Like what's really happening? And he's just like, dude, she's like this, he's like forcing this and I'm like, and then my other friend who's here, who they know each other. He's like, dude, you don't like her, do you? Like what's going on? And he's like, no, like he's trying to like explain to us like how happy he is with her, but he's really not because they're just fighting all the time. And I was like, let me ask you a real question, like straight up. Like, what do you like about her? And he's like, she's Armenian. I'm like, that's it?
I think I know who you're talking about. Okay, so he likes the fact that she's basically making things easier by being Armenian.
Yeah, for the family, for the parents, blah, blah, blah. But he's basically forcing a relationship because she checks off the box. That's what I don't like.
I see. I don't like that either. I was thinking about this in the car. I was thinking about all the people that I know that have dated Armenians and just they're dating them because they're Armenian and they're just them being Armenian is facilitating, like, put it this way, not having disagreements about what church, what school, what this. It just makes things a lot easier to marry Armenian. I feel like in talking about how much value you put on the person you're marrying being Armenian, should also come along with how Armenian they're actually not. So, like, to your benefit, Shant, you got lucky, but in the way that you got lucky, you got double lucky because not only did you land a really, really good Armenian to marry, but you also landed a good Armenian that isn't so wrapped in that Armenian saran wrap, if you will, that you gotta, So, good answer. I feel like that example of your friend, though, is pretty good.
And that happens a lot, I feel like, with Armenians, right? That's why that's why I think I went super like, oh, I'm not going to marry an Armenian, because I saw that when I was younger. But I ended up with the best situation possible, because I do love that Betty is Armenian and we relate to a lot of things. And I'm going to go to 2 quick points, and I want to hear what your thoughts are, like what you think is the right way, not the right way, the best way. So my brother lucked out, right? Married the girl he really loves. She's not Armenian, but she's super open to the culture.
Yeah, like she's not rejecting anything
or
denying anything.
Oh, like married in an Armenian church, like let's, like, oh, Armenian events, parties, like with all Armenians around. She's not like, oh, it's just like she's
exhausting.
Like she's open to it. So that's a perfect scenario, right? Yeah. The other one is, I think, so like I have a friend here, he's Mexican, right? And the Mexican culture is very similar to our culture, family values. I think it'd be cool marrying another, like an Italian, right? Who's big Italian fan, like really Italian. What's wrong with having 2 really cool cultures and
like a fusion? Yeah.
I think that's also super cool, because you get to learn a new culture, right? You get to see new things, hear new things. And I think it's just like, at the end of the day, if the person's a good person or whatever, then it's going to work. That's my opinion. So that's my rant. I don't hate on Armenian girls. It's just don't. I know I may came off a little abrasive there. I love Armenian people. I'm wearing actually an Armenian shirt, surprisingly. What are your thoughts? Like, what do you think you're looking at? Do you think it matters or it doesn't matter?
So obviously it matters. And actually, if you had to put a gun to my head and say pick from 2, you got a really, really, well versed and completely competent Armenian girl that's sort of strict in her ways, satisfying like the picturesque or like the template Armenian marriage, versus just your ordinary, just, hey, I met her like at the grocery store. I met her. I don't know how I met her, but I met her, and I still have to explain shit to her, and I still have to, like, basically, it's not easy bringing her everywhere, because I constantly have to be like, no, it's okay. Nobody's about to die. They're just trying to figure out who's paying the bill. These sorts of things. If you had to put a gun to my head and say pick one, I'd say I'd pick the Armenian. But if it was a lot more complicated than that,
which probably would be,
right, I would say, listen, to some degree, there's Armenian girls out there that are trying to fit the template, like we said, only to satisfy everybody else. So it's scary, man. It really is scary.
It's a perfect balance, because I think it's great, having Betty Armenian, Leo grow up super Armenian, but still with a little bit of Americanized,
they'll have that balance, bro, because that starts at a very, very young age, dude.
Yeah. I mean, we speak to him in Armenian anyway, for the most part, but I don't think like one of my friends out here, straight high Asansi kind of dude, right? He married a Mexican girl, right? And they have 2 kids together. Like, she's awesome. She's super inclusive in the community culture. And he's, like, the Mexican culture is very similar, bro, to ours.
Yeah, like they're very, very, like, set in their ways, tight knit, religious.
Yeah.
Strange, though. really, really changed because like it's right below the United States, and Americans
Totally
as a
different.
culture, yeah, it's just
No culture.
non-religious, except that like we hate everything but us. Not we. Just saying,
Yeah.
Americans are not known for being like the. Actually, man, I shouldn't be speaking like that, man. Even Europeans are fucking insanely racist, man.
I think a lot of countries are. Don't put it
Yeah.
past Armenians, Mexican,
Dude, there's just so much race. So now, come to think of it, maybe the U.S. is the most tolerant. But let's put it this way. Mexicans are very, very protective. That's a better word.
Yes.
Protective of their culture and their values.
Yes.
So very, very similar. Like you marry into a Mexican or an Italian or I don't know, type of family, and they get it. They're hip to the idea of we got to keep this guy's traditions alive, even if they're not mine.
It's interesting, man. I think that's a great topic. You just brought this up freaking 2 minutes before the podcast. You're like, hey,
I have an employee, Anna. She asked me how the wedding went. I hadn't seen her since because she came in during the weekend. She knew I was not here. She was asking me all about the wedding and whatnot, and I told her they brought in a band, the Dalzurna, playing like the drums and like the snake music. You know what I'm talking about. So, and she goes, "Oh, like we're like, are they Armenians from back home that just moved there?" I'm like, "No, both of them grew up here,
like born and raised, like
right." And she was just like shocked. She was blown away by it. And I'm like, "Yeah, like they lucked out, you know."
Yeah.
Both of them speak fluent Armenian. Both of them, went to Scouts, AYF, and did all this crazy Armenian shit. And they can't wait to, to have kids and do more crazy Armenian shit together.
Yeah.
Not because they have to, but because they want to. They're not filling the template of somebody else's requirements. They're doing what they want to do, and they're doing it genuinely.
And that's when it's the perfect, the perfect match, right? I was just trying to avoid the filling the box, right?
Right. So here, let me explain to you how much value I put on it. The value that I put on, and this is going to be such a pure from the bottom of my heart answer. What I think about marriage and what I think about purely what I think about an Armenian marriage, how much value I put on marrying an Armenian person. My intention isn't to go out and start checking off boxes and filling a template. I am the purest of however pure an American Armenian can get in terms of trying to keep tradition alive for the sake of how much the tradition means to me. I was taught the tradition as I grew up. I wasn't born into the tradition and then just moved to the US. I was raised in the US and I was taught the tradition and I fell in love with the tradition so much that I went to Syria unsolicited, without even being told you have to go.
Yeah, I remember that.
Went there, relearned the language, went to Armenia many times, and spent a lot of time there. And I knew in my head that I have to stay Armenian. Now, if I were to come across a girl that is also, for her own sake, wanting to keep herself and her kids Armenian, if she were to marry an American person, putting that much value on keeping her kids and herself very, very much Armenian, she's doing it for the sake of keeping that tradition alive. That would be sort of my motivation. Like, listen, I don't care so much about checking off the boxes and filling the template. I want that genuine love for wanting to keep a flame burning inside of you, not projecting to your community, hey, we filled out your template and checked off all your fucking boxes, but at home we're going to be doing just normal shit, not teaching our kids anything different, maybe projecting some negative shit to them about what sort of person to be, that kind of unhealthy bullshit.
Yeah.
I just want my kids, whether or not my wife is Armenian, which obviously I prefer them to be Armenian. I just want my kids to have the same things that I did, if at all possible. Syria is kind of off limits right now, but if at all possible, to keep that going.
I get it. It makes sense. So like, and we'll probably wrap up soon. My friend back east, right? He, Armenian. I think he's half Armenian actually, but he's Armenian, right? No, he's full Armenian. He married a Dominican girl, right? Dude, she's at every Armenian event. She's at the Badahantises. She's been to Armenia, right? She's at the games. Like, she's like family, bro. Like, because we used to play at the same team and stuff. She's always at the game. She's legit. And she has her Dominican side too. Like, I've met her family, like, at their house, they had parties and they mix, like, she's super involved in Armenia. Like, she's at the April 24th marches and all that stuff. Right. But she's still very strongly Dominican, right? Her culture, but she's so open to the Armenian. Like, that's a great thing, I think,
It's insane. It's so good. If you're not going to marry an Armenian, at the very least have somebody that just understands tradition and understands why you put so much value on what you're putting so much value on. So my answer is that yes, marriage for me is at the very least highly dependent on how open that person is to maintaining those sets of values for the kids, or else why are you getting married is the question. If you're not going to be having kids and trying to raise a family using a certain set of values,
it doesn't matter.
What are your values for getting married?
Yeah.
Having somebody to grow old with? You can do that without getting married and showing anybody anything just because you want to have a wedding.
Yeah. And I think
just don't understand it.
It's also cool to be a part of another culture and learn other cultures. I think it's a great thing. I think sometimes we as Armenians get stuck in ours too much and don't explore others and kind of, I think it's just a great thing to just be involved in different cultures and be open to other things. I just feel so lucky to grew up around other cultures and got to see how other people are. It's a great thing.
Agreed.
I love it.
Agreed.
That's all I got.
I've got
man.
two best friends that their parents, they're half Armenian. So their parents, one of them is Italian or was Italian. One of them is deceased. So both dads are Armenian, both moms Italian. And both are no less Armenian than me. So it's very impressive. It's very, very impressive how having only one parent as the Armenian worked out in their case. What would have been different had both parents been Armenian?
Nothing.
Is what I'm sort of curious to know.
Nothing. Now, are they still in the Italian community? Like, do they have Italian pride?
They have, what they have? Not so much one of them because actually I shouldn't say that. The other one is just very, very familiar with how things work, how they do business and all that stuff. But the other one he has all cousins and uncles that are Italian. They're very, very tradition based. They go back home to their city in Italy, or their village, I should say, in Italy. So yeah, like they're not as immersed as their Armenian side, because the Italian side has never been like that. Being half Italian or being even half Mexican is not going to pull you in as much as being half Armenian, because there's that urgency component. Yeah. We always feel like we're on the brink of extinction.
Yeah.
And we are.
Yeah. Italians a little bit different.
We really fucking are, by the way.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, there's a little bit extra pride because we've been fucked a lot, and
now actually currently still getting it.
It's not funny, but yeah, maybe we should talk about that next week.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about next week what, as an American Armenian, what is it that you can actually do besides calling your senator?
I would like to know. And by the way,
maybe we can bring Stretch on next week.
That would be good. He's very into it, and that might be a good idea. Lastly,
maybe we can talk the God in, see if he can come on for 20 minutes, half hour. Just tell us
what we could do as Armenians, right? So lastly, I'll leave with this. People who think I'm anti-Armenian, okay? Screw you guys. I love being Armenian. And me and Betty, the past month, I've been talking about how do we live in Armenia for half of the year, okay?
Crazy.
Not when we're 70, soon.
Living off of the investment income.
So, I love being Armenian. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Me too.
I'd be okay with being Italian, though. I love Italian food.
So good, man. I just have acid reflux. That's the only issue. But other than that, love to, yeah.
All right, man.
Good talk, Shant. All right. Good night, Shant.
Good night. Good night, everyone. It's still late out, but okay. Good night.
Crazy.